first things first, when you're making a tomato sauce, a savory tomato sauce, I'm gathering my tomatoes that I've been harvesting from my garden. I've been picking out my Romas and my Italian my Italian tomatoes, and I've got about 4 pounds here, so that's what I'm looking for. Hopefully about 4 to 5 pounds of tomatoes. If I was at the store, I would get a can of 24 ounce or 28 ounce peeled tomatoes, and then a can of the same amount of tomato puree. So you can make the sauce canned, but we're going to try to do fresh today because I have so many tomatoes. This isn't even like a third of what I have. The rest is in the dining room. So, and more is coming. So anyway, we're gonna use some of them up today. All right, I'm gonna get a pot of boiling water going. So with my water boiling, I have a big pot on the stove. And what we're gonna do is we're going to take the skins off of these. And you don't have to do this, but this does make things go a little faster, and it's simply making a little X at the bottom. You're just piercing the skin a little bit. And this just, like that. I'm also taking little tops off too. And the skin's just going to come right off after it's been sitting in the boiling water for a little bit. This is a great trick, even for peaches, when you're canning peaches, plums. So continue on with your 4 pounds while your water's boiling. So while your water's coming up to boil, the other thing you want to do is nearby have a big old bowl of ice. And what you're going to do is have a slotted spoon. You're going to move the tomatoes from the boiling water into the ice water. Okay, we have a rolling boil, so start popping your little tomatoes in. Do it gently, try not to get burned. All right, we're gonna time this for about 5 minutes. But really you're going to see, what you're looking for is some of the skins to just start cracking and coming out, especially where you sliced things. So it might not even take 5 minutes. It depends how ripe your tomatoes are. And be sure to have a slotted spoon of some sort to pull them out and pop them into the ice water. Honestly, this wasn't even 5 minutes, and already some of my skin is almost completely coming off. So I am going to pop these out. Stay with me for a second. And there you go. So I'm going to continue on with the rest of these. All right, so these are kind of cooling off, and you're going to wait till they're cool enough to handle. That's the great thing about dumping them in this ice water. The other thing too is it contracts the flesh away from the skin, so this ends up being super, super easy. So even though you're probably thinking, oh my god, this is a huge pain in the ass, I'm just gonna get a can of tomatoes from the store, this really only takes about an extra 15 minutes or so. So, you know, if you care about local, if you care about growing your own tomatoes, this is worth the extra effort. So I have another bowl nearby, and fair warning, you need a lot of bowls in this process. So as I peel them and take any imperfections out, I'm popping them over here. And I'm dumping this in the food process, not the food processor, the garbage disposal. So it's kind of like a little assembly line in your sink. So peel, dump into the bowl, garbage disposal. So keep going like that. All right, look at these tomatoes. So one thing you want to do is gently, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm draining off some of the water from this process. You're not draining off juice, you're draining off the water that it took. So that's why you're not putting a lot of pressure on these, you're just kind of taking some of that extra water off. You don't want a lot, these already are going to contain a lot of liquid. You don't want extra water in your sauce. especially if you're canning too. So here they are. Drain off your water gently, and then we're going to hand crush half of these for the sauce, then we're going to puree the other half. It's as if, we had bought those 2 cans at the store, one for puree and one for whole peeled tomatoes. So here's a bowl. I'm going to take half of my amount and I'm just going to crush with my hand, which is what I'm going to do anyway over the pot of sauce if I had a whole can whole tomatoes. If you want to be really particular, you can weigh these out. Also, if you haven't, and you have a really thick top where the stem was, pull that out with your hand, your little fingers, see? And take out any imperfections at this point too that you see that you haven't caught while you've peeled. So continue on kind of crushing them with your hand. You're going to do this to half the amount of tomatoes. All right, so that's half of our tomatoes kind of crushed up with your hand. Now we're going to make our puree. So for the puree, you can do a couple things. One, there are these food mills that you can use. I have one downstairs. The cool thing with the food mill is it'll kind of keep some of the seeds out. I'm going to do a shortcut. I'm just going to whiz these up in my smaller food processor. I'm going to go probably 2 rounds. And you don't want to go too crazy. You just want to kind of puree it up. You're doing this for a smoother, kind of just smooth out your tomato sauce. Like so. I'm dumping this into the bowl with the crushed tomatoes. Second round. And you can see I still have, I don't know if you can tell, all this liquid in here. I still have a bit of water that, even though I drained it. You can see the difference in consistency. All right, so I'm heating up over medium-high heat in a heavy bottom saucepan about a 1/4 cup of really good extra virgin Italian olive oil. This is, I'm going to show you, this is the one we've been using for our special dishes. It's imported. Okay, so once you get this nice and hot, I have 4 cloves of garlic crushed and 1/2 cup of red onion. You could also use a shallot, a couple shallots, instead of red onion. Okay, I'm going to lower the heat to about a 6 or a 5, and I want to cook up my garlic and onion until it's nice and soft. Garlic tends to brown really fast, and you don't want it to brown too much because then you're going to get a bitter garlic taste. So I'm slowing this down a little bit. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of red pepper flake, just to give it a little bit of something something. It's up to you how much you want to use. That was seriously just like a pinch. I don't want to turn it into a puttanesca. But I would just want a little something. All right, that's looking softened. It's just starting to brown. So with this, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of a light wine. This is actually a rosé, but you can use white wine rosé. I just happen to have rosé open. You want just something light, nothing too much. And I'm gonna cook off this wine. So I'm gonna kick up the heat a little bit and cook this off. Okay, so this is thickened up a lot and cooked down, and it's nice and thick from the wine portion of this recipe. That's what you're looking for before you add anchovy paste. Anchovy paste is optional. Some people are like, ew, no. Honestly, all it does, and I'm looking for about a teaspoon of the anchovy paste. And we get this on Amazon or some specialty Italian stores. And you kind of mush it all in there. It's gonna be really imperceptible. It's just gonna add a little bit of kind of what I call flavor crystals to your sauce. I'm gonna lower this heat a touch. The other thing you're gonna do is you're gonna add a tablespoon of tomato paste. Now, I make my own, so, and I freeze it in ice cube trays. Each cube is a tablespoon. So I'm gonna kind of melt that in there. If you wanna make your own tomato paste and freeze it, check out my preserving playlist. I do have a video on how to do this. I know some of you are probably rolling your eyes going, oh, a tablespoon of tomato paste. What a waste, right? Because you have to buy a can and you only need a tablespoon. If you buy a can of tomato paste for this recipe, get an old ice cube tray and freeze the rest. I seriously keep tomato paste in the freezer all the time like that. And I keep them in tablespoon chunks. So you're gonna melt this down and you're going to brown this tomato sauce. You wanna darken this up a little bit before we add our tomatoes from the garden. So you see this like brick red color? Even the oils kind of getting that red color. It's nice. You wanted like a nice, thick, dark red color on the base here. So now, this only took a few minutes. You're still on medium-high heat. Now we're gonna add our tomatoes. All right, give this a good stir. Also, you've been on kind of like more medium heat. You want to bring this up to a boil now. So I'm gonna kick up the heat to about a 9. I'm scraping the bottom, make sure I get all that good stuff we just made, and get it into the sauce. I eyeball my pepper. I'm looking for about an 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon, depending. And I do about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then I taste after it's been cooking. All right, we had this to a rolling boil, and now I'm going to take it down to a low simmer, because this has to cook for about an hour to an hour and a half. Preferably an hour and a half, but I check and see. Now, before we just let this go, we need some herbs, more flavor crystals, if you will. So, all fresh from my garden, I've got 2 sprigs of oregano that I've taken the leaves off of the sprigs and minced. I've got about a 1/4 cup of fresh chopped parsley and about 1/3 cup of fresh chopped basil. And now we let it cook. We'll check it in about an hour. Okay, it's been about an hour, a little over, but not much. You can see from the original sauce line, which was up here, it's been reduced to about half, which is what we're looking for. So actually, I don't think we need to go for maybe the full hour and a half. I think this has been more like an hour 15. And what you're looking for is like, you know, like a thick oatmeal cereal texture, which is what we have. The other thing you want to do at this point, after like the hour, is to taste. So you want to taste and adjust seasonings, which I did already, and it's perfect. It doesn't need any more salt. If it's too bitter, which sometimes my canned tomatoes in the winter, the citric acid makes them a little bitter, so you might want to add a little bit of baking soda or a dash of some sugar. So here's where you want to adjust. And then you want to turn it off and use it in your recipe. This is going in an eggplant parmesan, which is another video. So if you are interested in learning how to make eggplant parm, check out my eggplant parm video. This can also be great on some penne or other baked dishes, baked Italian dishes. So anyway, thanks for joining me on Fridays with Flora, and get cooking and get gardening and harvesting those tomatoes. We'll do more tomato videos in the next coming weeks. Bye!